In this video, I'm going to show you how I installed my Atlas HO number 305 turntable and how I motorized it with the Atlas HO number 304 motor drive. First, I wanted to make sure my turntable was in the correct position. In my case, the approach track will enter the turntable on the third slot to the right of the motor house. This leaves me enough room for a possible access road so that employees can get to and from the shanty. The next step was to join my approach track to the turntable. There was a small gap between the two, so I had to cut away the track bed. Once the track bed was removed, I pinned down the approach track and the turntable temporarily so that nothing moved. It's important to get this step almost perfect because if your approach track is too close, the turntable won't turn. I tested this by turning the manual crank clockwise and counterclockwise. And if your approach track is too far away, your locos will derail. I tested this with a tank car. You will notice that the track bed and turntable don't align perfectly. I might have to add a shim later on. Next, I planned a way to secure the turntable to the layout. I did not want to use glue, so I decided to screw it down. Only problem was, Atlas provides you with 4 tiny screws. These screws are too short to go through the turntable, an inch of foam, and the plywood. And they don't make long, thin screws. I looked everywhere, so I tried something that I have not seen done before. I first scored the foam around the turntable with my knife. Then I removed the turntable and cut the foam out. I put the pieces of foam aside in case I want to fill the hole back up and pretend this whole thing never happened. Now that I have a hole in my layout, I have to fill it. I found some old half-inch ply in my basement and traced my turntable twice on it because a half-inch plus a half-inch equals 1 inch. Right, Gucci? I then scored the wood with my trusty rusty knife and using my karate skills. If you don't have karate skills, I recommend a jigsaw. I sanded the edges so that when I jammed the pieces in, they wouldn't rip my foam. It took some doing and some more sanding, but I finally maneuvered the 2 pieces of wood into the hole. These puppies are not coming out. I marked 5 spots for drilling. I drilled some pilot holes and then put the screws in. This will secure the pieces of wood to the layout. I made sure the screws were flush with the wood so that the turntable rested level. I'm now going to use some 8 by 1.5 floor screws, and you'll notice that they're high performance, one of the best for M&M rails. Okay, here is the turntable motor drive from Atlas. It's number 304. Let's take a look what's inside. So here's the actual motor, which has an elastic band here. And it comes with an extra elastic band and the instructions. Now for the fun part. I took my biggest drill bit and made a hole for the drive unit wires. These 2 wires will run from the motor to my control panel so I can rotate the turntable with my power pack. I also drilled 2 holes for the wires that will power the turntable track. More on that later. I snapped off the gear case cover by first lifting it with my knife and then slowly prying it off with my fingers. Now the gear is exposed ready for the drive worm on the motor to be installed next to it. Before I install the drive unit, I have to secure the turntable into the wood because the motor will cover the mounting holes. Thank goodness for instructions. I almost did the opposite. So before I secure the turntable in place, I want to double check and make sure it's in the right position. I test the approach track again and rotate the turntable track both ways to make sure everything is make sure everything works. Once I was satisfied with the placement of the turntable, I selected my smallest drill bit and drilled 4 pilot holes for the mounting screws. To put the mounting screws in place, I used my hammer. To put the mounting screws in place, I drilled them. To put the mounting screws in place, I used my small screwdriver by hand. I found some old brown and yellow wire, and I snipped the ends off to give them a fresh look. I then stripped the ends and twisted the fray wires for easier use. I screwed the brown wire to the black terminal and the yellow to the red terminal. Now my drive unit is ready to be mounted and wired to my Atlas number 220 controller on my control panel. I took out my mounting screws so that I could feed the wires under the turntable and through the holes. Next, I screwed some wire to the terminal that powers the track and fed the other end through its hole. There are 2 terminals. The one on the right goes to the track switch on my control panel. The one on the left goes to the common rail connections, just like my other block wiring. I'm following the figure 9 in the instructions provided by Atlas. Once all the wires were pulled through and out of sight, I secured the turntable back in place with the 2 mounting screws. I did not tighten them so that I could pull the brown and yellow wires snug and neatly out of the way. Once that was done, I tightened the mounting screws, then screwed in the drive unit. Last step is to place the shanty over everything, and oh yeah, don't forget to put in the other 2 mounting screws. Now let's see if it works. Okay, let's see if the track works. I have wired the common rail wire to the Atlas controller and the other wire to the Atlas Selector, switch number 1. I have placed the locomotive on the turntable. I will turn off the turntable and switch on the track. My next job will be to add some stall tracks, but that's for another video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. I sure did. I need more lessons in karate. Hi-ya!